What fact is common knowledge to people who work in your field, but almost unknown to the rest of the population? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more. The maximum spacing between spindles in a railing is 4 inches because that's the average size of a baby's head. Most building officials will carry a 4 inches sphere with them when doing inspections on new construction. Coffee shops spend more on milk than coffee. Being a civil attorney, we almost never go to jury trial and the job can be unbelievably boring. Most 911 calls an ambulance receives on a daily basis are not remotely close to being emergencies. In some museums, what you see on the shelves can be less than 10% of the whole collection. For example, the Louvre has over 460,000 items in their collection, and only has space to display about 35,000 of those, roughly 7.6% of their total collection, due to limited physical space, and for aesthetic purposes, most items in museums stay back in storage and/or archives. Plus, most items need to be maintained at certain temperatures, and light. If we can't meet those needs, it will never be allowed for public viewing, ever. There are most likely some of the most amazing, visually stunning pieces of artwork that you or anyone will never get to see. Bonus, accession and de-accession can also be a touchy area. Just because it's old, doesn't mean we're going to take it and add it to the collections, and we try to be nice to people who are disappointed we won't take their precious family heirlooms. Other times, it's easier just to say, yeah, we don't want that. Edited, for correct percentage of the Louvre's collection, it's lower than I thought. Edited again, for those who were asking, I have a BA in art history, and a master's in museum studies. I presently work as a digital preservation librarian in the archives and special collections of a university, and have worked in numerous museums, universities all over the world. It's been quite a fulfilling job. I've handled artwork from Michelangelo, Rembrandt, Warhol, Pollock, Picasso, and many more. Ask away, and I'll answer if I can. In scoring for film, the orchestra ensemble actually plays the music live as the movie is played behind them. It is recorded, and Synthedit should have specified the conductor, who is usually the composer, stands facing the screen and has a small screen in front of them with different colored bars to indicate starting, stopping and pace, as well as other cues and insets. Composers have watched the film beforehand and are often frequent collaborators with certain directors. Neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson, starts way before the first symptoms appears. No one wake up suddenly one day with Alzheimer's. From actual data, it seems that the disease is rampant for 10 to 15 years before the first symptoms. Some research say that you can start identifying abnormalities 20+ years before the memory loss begin, and it works for all neurodegenerative diseases. A fake. Nominal pipe diameters are not indicative of their actual diameter. So a 1-inch pipe is rarely actually 1 inch in either outside or inside diameter. Why? I have no idea. But if you drill a hole of exact diameter and stick that pipe in there, you're going to have a bad time. I worked as an insurance adjuster. Most people have no idea what homeowners insurance actually does. Here is a very simple guide to understanding what is covered by homeowners insurance, a sudden and one-time occurrence. While there are some exceptions to this, understanding those few words will help you understand 95% of what is and is not covered by your policy. Note, my experience applies to U.S. insurance only. The toner in your printer is plastic being melted onto the paper. Office copiers cost upwards of $7,000. Some can go for $15,000 minus $20,000 depending on print speed and capacity. Not everyone who works in a library is a librarian. Bonus, librarians have master's degrees. Virtually every piece of copper, aluminum, or steel you come across has been chopped to bits, refined, melted down and used to make whatever object it's a part of. Dozens, if not hundreds of times. Copper pipe? Probably started out as hundreds of different wires from various devices from around the world at one point. In jewelry, a diamond is a luxury expense, not an investment. Gold is the investment. If you try to sell your engagement ring, you'll get maybe 20% of what you initially paid for it. Jewelers can get diamonds for a fraction of what you paid for it. An elevator will go up to the top of the hoist instead of crash to the floor in most catastrophic failures due to the counterweights. Heartworms are treatable for dogs, but not for cats. Also, keep on top of your heartworm prevention for your dog, if they get heartworm but you can prove that they've been continually covered, which isn't difficult, the receipts are good enough, and your vet will have them in their database, then the heartworm prevention manufacturer will pay for the treatment. Man, I love that you all love your pets. There is a surprising amount of infrastructure under your feet. You'd be surprised how much public utility runs underneath private property. Always call before you dig. There is no difference between a violin and a fiddle other than how you play it. You don't defibrillate asystole, flatline cardiac rhythm, like they do on TV. It's a non-shockable rhythm. You would think all the heavily relied upon server infrastructures were super secure and highly redundant. Ha 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 ha. Touching your fresh tattoo with your unwashed fingers is bad. It's absurd how many times we have to tell this to people. When you write to your politician, he won't be reading your letter, he won't be writing the reply, that's all done by staffers. All he does is, sign here. If you stick your eardrum with an object, you will start to cough. This happens because the nerves interconnect n. Vagus. I hope this information helps you in future battles. Your new house you just built probably has much better insulation than your old house from the 70s. Since the house is much more energy efficient, the size of the furnace and/or air conditioner may be smaller than what you had at your old house even if the new house is larger. No, we can't use rules of thumb to size your HVAC equipment no matter what Google says. We have to use a load calculation and that has to be approved by the building department. Bonus, having an HVAC system that runs all the time but just barely gets you to the temperature you want is more energy efficient than a larger system that turns off and on all of the time. Even if it seems like the system is running constantly. As a UX designer in the US, we hate having to localize the text for use in Germany because German words can be ridiculously long compared to most other languages. An electrical engineer isn't an electrician. All processors begin as top of the line and then may end up lower because they didn't make the threshold. Explaining with an example, Intel only tries to make i9 processors, let's say they have 16 cores, since the process of making these is hard only 20 to 30% have all cores working. Next they see the amount processors with more than or equal to 8 cores, disable extra cores just to make sure only 8 cores work and ship them as i7. Next 4, 5, 6 and 7 in all only 4 cores are left working and shipped as i5.2 and 3 only 2 cores are left operating and all others are switched off, shipped as i3. Hope that makes sense. Also this was a hypothetical example, not all facts may be accurate, they should be, but just in case. Also this is done to minimize wastage which in turn makes these things cheaper so it's a win-win for all. Also this isn't just done by Intel, Snapdragon AMD all do it, so when you hear Nvidia is unable to meet the supply supply of their top-tier card, it's not because they didn't try hard enough, it is because they keep failing to reach the benchmarks they expect in their top-tier cards and sell them as low-tier, because the yield is low. Note, this is a very difficult process and checking for mistakes in each piece at 14 nanometers is not possible, since verification is a destructive process, so if something is wrong generally a batch gets screwed. Edit, thanks for the silver, my first silver, important edit, this is a bit oversimplified, low-end processors are also made, but they require setting up an entire assembly line, and thus are only done if there is a high demand and a very high probability of significantly better yield. Also, cores are not just the only parts disabled. Thanks for watching, please leave a like and subscribe for more content.